Hey everyone, you ready to kind of dive into something I think we all think about but rarely analyze deeply?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're tackling the psychology of money today,
Always a fun one.
guided by Morgan Housel, and we're in the final chapters of his book, The Psychology of Money.
Okay.
Get ready to uncover the hidden forces that shape our financial lives, from those aha moments to practical tips that you can use right away.
I think what makes these chapters so interesting is how they expose that deeply personal side of finance, right?
Yeah.
Like we often treat money as this purely rational game of numbers, but Housel, he reveals the hidden influences of our pasts, our emotions, even how our grandparents' experiences, shape our financial choices today.
It's like he's peeling back the curtain on our financial psyches.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, he digs into this idea of personal history with some incredibly vivid examples.
Right.
Imagine someone who lived through the Great Depression
Yeah.
versus, say, someone who came of age during, like, the dot-com boom.
Totally.
Their whole relationship with risk, with investing, even what it means to be wealthy is going to be totally different.
Yeah, and it's not just theoretical. Think about your own life.
Mhm.
Have you ever made a financial decision that left your friends scratching their
Oh,
heads?
absolutely.
Like maybe you took a leap of faith on a risky investment or clung to a stable job, even when it made you miserable?
Totally.
These choices might seem irrational from the outside, but they make perfect sense when we consider the unique lens of our own personal histories.
It's like that time I convinced myself I could make a living selling handmade earrings online.
Oh,
After one Etsy shop owner told me she made six figures.
wow.
Like, in my head, it was practically a done deal, totally ignoring the years of hard work.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could barely thread a needle.
Right.
Our past experiences really do color our financial decisions in ways we don't even realize.
Precisely. And that leads us to another intriguing concept from Housel, this idea of the power of tails.
Okay.
He argues that in both investing and in life, it's often a tiny handful of events, these tails, that end up accounting for the majority of the outcomes.
Interesting.
Think about it like this. You wouldn't expect to become fluent in a language by just learning a few common phrases, right?
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So it's like those viral videos that make millions overnight.
Exactly.
And we see those and we think, hey, I could do that.
Right.
But we totally forget about the countless hours of work and the sheer luck involved in those breakout moments.
Exactly. We tend to overestimate our odds of experiencing those positive tails while underestimating the likelihood of encountering the negative ones.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing. Those unexpected events, both good and bad, they play a significant role in shaping our financial trajectories.
So how do we navigate a world where these unpredictable tales can have such a huge impact? Should we all just buy lottery tickets and hope for the best?
Well, not quite. Housel's point isn't that we're completely at the mercy of chance, right? It's that we need to be comfortable with a lot of things not working out as planned. It's about staying in the game long enough for those winning tales to emerge.
That makes sense. It's like that old saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But in this case, it's more like, you can't win if you stop playing the game.
Exactly. And this is where the magic of time and compounding comes in. Housel uses the example of Warren Buffett. Now, Buffett's not known for flashy bets or trying to time the market. His superpower is consistency over an incredibly long time horizon.
He's been investing for something like 70 years, right?
Uh,
It's almost impossible to wrap your head around that kind of long-term thinking.
It's true. Think of it this way. Even if Buffett had earned slightly lower returns, the fact that he's been invested for so long is what makes his track record so remarkable. It totally dismantles the myth that you need to be a Wall Street whiz or hit home runs with every investment to build wealth.
It reminds me of that classic example. Would you rather have $1 million today or a penny that doubles in value every single day for a month? Most people would instinctively grab the $1 million, right?
Of course, $1 million feels tangible, something you can hold in your hands, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. But that penny, thanks to the power of compounding, would actually be worth way more by the end of the month. It's mind-boggling how quickly those small, consistent gains add up.
And that's precisely why understanding compounding is so crucial. We're wired for linear thinking, not exponential growth. Our brains, they struggle to grasp the sheer force of compounding because we're surrounded by examples of linear progress in our daily lives.
So how do we harness this power of compounding in our own lives? Is it as simple as just starting to invest as early as possible?
That's definitely a huge part of it. Even small amounts invested consistently can snowball over time. But Housel also cautions against striving for that mathematically perfect financial plan.
Yeah,
Life's messy, unpredictable.
right.
It's far more important to find a strategy you can realistically stick with, even if it means accepting slightly lower returns on paper.
He uses the example of a highly leveraged investment strategy, right? It might look like a surefire way to get rich quick on a spreadsheet, but in reality, most people can't stomach the emotional roller coaster that comes with that kind of volatility. They end up selling low and buying high, the opposite of what they should be doing.
Exactly. It all comes back to aligning your financial strategy with your psychological makeup. It's about finding that sweet spot between maximizing returns and maximizing your peace of mind.
It's about understanding that true wealth isn't just about how much money you have in the bank, but about the freedom and control that money can provide.
Now you're getting it. Housel argues that the real value of wealth isn't about fancy cars or extravagant vacations. It's about having the flexibility to walk away from a job you hate, to spend precious time with loved ones, or to pursue a passion without constantly worrying about money. It's about aligning your financial life with your values and aspirations.
This part really resonates with me. In today's world, especially with social media constantly bombarding us with images of other people's seemingly perfect lives, it's easy to fall into the comparison trap. We see the highlight reels, the flashy purchases, and feel this pressure to keep up, even if it means sacrificing our long-term well-being.
It's a slippery slope. And it's important to remember that what we see on social media is often a carefully curated version of reality. It's easy to lose sight of the fact that true fulfillment often comes from things money can't buy: meaningful relationships, a sense of purpose, and the freedom to live life on your own terms.
It's so true. We often judge wealth by the external trappings, by what we see, but true wealth often lies in what we don't see. The financial security that allows you to take risks, to say no to things you don't want to do, to have options and flexibility.
Precisely. It's about building that unseen foundation that gives you the freedom to make choices based on what truly matters to you, rather than being driven by financial pressure or the need to impress others. But here's the challenge. How do we reconcile this desire for freedom and flexibility with the realities of the modern economy?
That's a great question. It's like we're trying to achieve a level of financial security that might not even be attainable for most people anymore, at least not without making some serious changes to our expectations.
You've hit on a critical point. It's easy to forget that the American consumer, as we know them today, is a relatively recent phenomenon. Housel dedicates his postscript to tracing this evolution, and it's fascinating stuff.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, he points out that the post-World War II economic boom, with its low interest rates, pent-up demand, and newfound access to credit, really shaped the American consumer's mindset. Imagine coming home from the war to a world suddenly flooded with new gadgets, appliances, and things that most people had only dreamed of owning before. It was like stepping into the future.
It's easy to see how that period of unprecedented economic growth would shape people's expectations about the future. Suddenly, the American dream of owning a home, a car, all the latest gadgets it felt within reach for millions of people.
Exactly. And for a while, it worked. But as global competition increased and economic growth became more uneven, cracks began to appear in this model. We started to see rising debt levels, wage stagnation, and a growing disconnect between people's expectations, the reality of their financial situations.
It's like we're clinging to this image of the prosperous American dream, even though the economic landscape has shifted dramatically. The median home size has ballooned in recent decades, while wages for many have stagnated. It's no wonder so many people feel financially squeezed.
And that's why it's so important to be aware of the narratives we tell ourselves about money, about the economy, about our own financial futures.
Because those narratives can either empower us or completely sabotage our efforts to build a secure financial future.
Precisely. Housel argues that pessimism can be incredibly seductive. It plays on our deepest fears and anxieties, but it often ignores humanity's incredible capacity for adaptation, innovation, and resilience.
It's like those headlines predicting the demise of entire industries. Print is dead. The robots are taking over. We've all seen them.
And yet somehow we adapt. New industries emerge. Humans find ways to thrive even amidst disruption and uncertainty.
So how do we cultivate a more balanced perspective? How do we avoid getting swept up in the waves of pessimism or unrealistic optimism?
Housel suggests cultivating a healthy skepticism towards financial forecasts and focusing on what we can control. After all, no one has a crystal ball. Instead of trying to time the market or predict the next big thing, focus on building sustainable habits like saving consistently, investing in a diversified portfolio, and managing debt wisely.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about focusing on the fundamentals, on the things we can actually influence, rather than getting caught up in the noise and uncertainty of the market.
Exactly. Remember, we can't control the waves, but we can learn to surf.
It's like we're talking about riding those waves. There's another point that Housel makes that I think goes right along with that.
You thinking about that idea that nobody's crazy?
Yes, it's tempting to judge other people's financial decisions,
Oh, yeah.
especially when they seem irrational or even reckless to us.
Total.
But Housel, he reminds us that every choice, every financial decision makes sense to the person making it.
At least in that moment.
Right, exactly.
Think of it like this. We're all navigating this complex world of money with our own unique set of experiences, our own hopes and fears, our own deeply personal relationship with risk and reward.
Yeah.
What seems crazy to you might make perfect sense to someone else, given their context.
It's like those lottery tickets that Housel talks about.
Right.
From a purely rational perspective, it seems absurd to spend your hard-earned money on something with such slim odds of winning.
But for someone who's always struggled financially, who's felt trapped by circumstance, that tiny chance of a life-changing windfall
Yeah.
can be incredibly seductive. It represents hope.
That's such an important point. It's so easy to judge. But when we take the time to understand the underlying motivations, those seemingly irrational decisions start to make a lot more sense.
And it's not just about lottery tickets.
Right.
Think about those stories we hear of people taking on massive debt to launch a business or betting everything on a risky investment.
Yeah,
From the outside, it might look like recklessness,
sure.
but to them, it might feel like the only way to break free from the status quo.
It's like that friend we all have who was dead set on becoming a doctor, spent years studying, sacrificing their social life, only to realize once they finally achieved their goal that it wasn't what they actually wanted.
That's a classic example of what psychologists call the end of history illusion.
Oh, interesting.
We have this tendency to imagine our future selves as being essentially the same as our present selves. But the reality is we're constantly evolving. Our goals, our priorities, our values, they all shift over time.
So how do we make sound financial decisions when the ground beneath our feet is constantly shifting?
Right.
It's like trying to hit a moving target in the dark.
Housel suggests aiming for moderation.
Okay.
Instead of chasing extreme outcomes like becoming a millionaire by 30 or retiring early to a life of leisure, focus on building a balanced life with moderate savings, moderate free time, and moderate time with loved ones.
It's about creating a sustainable lifestyle that can adapt to our changing needs and desires, rather than locking ourselves into a rigid plan that might make us miserable down the road.
Absolutely.
It's about leaving room for growth, for change, for those inevitable plot twists that life throws our way.
And just as importantly, it's about leaving room for error, both financially and emotionally. Remember Jeff Immelt, the CEO of General Electric, who faced harsh criticism when the company's fortunes took a turn for the worse.
Right. He was considered one of the most brilliant business minds of his generation, and yet even he made decisions that, in hindsight, proved costly.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that we're all human, even those at the top of their game. We make mistakes. We misjudge situations. We make decisions based on the information we have at the time. And sometimes those decisions don't pan out the way we hoped.
It's easy to fall into the trap of hindsight bias, to look back and say, well, I would have done things differently. But the reality is we're all just doing the best we can with the information and resources we have available.
And that's why building in a margin of safety is so crucial, whether it's having a healthy emergency fund, diversifying your investments, or avoiding excessive debt. Those buffers can help you weather those inevitable storms without derailing your long-term progress.
It's like that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Exactly. And ultimately, it all comes back to remembering that money is a tool. It can be a powerful force for good in our lives, but only if we use it wisely and intentionally.
It's about aligning our financial decisions with our values, our goals, our vision for the future. It's about recognizing the power of compounding, the importance of long-term thinking, and the need for both humility and a healthy dose of skepticism.
And perhaps most importantly, it's about understanding ourselves, our motivations, our biases, our own unique psychology of money. Because at the end of the day, that's what will determine whether we use this powerful tool to create a life of meaning, purpose, and, yes, even joy.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. As we wrap up our deep dive into the psychology of money, think about what truly matters to you. What kind of life do you want to create? What are your financial goals? And how can you align them with your values and your vision for the future? How can you use money as a tool to build that life rather than letting it dictate your choices? Keep those questions in mind, and you'll be well on your way to mastering not just your finances, but your relationship with money itself. That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.